Google calls for the White House to support ensuring open source projects are secure. What does the White House have to do with open source software?
I actually don't really know. I thought this was really interesting. I skimmed through it and still didn't really understand it. To go over some of the notes, the White House hosted a summit on Thursday with big tech companies to discuss how to make open source software more secure. The meeting, featuring Google, Facebook, Amazon, Oracle, and more, comes in the wake of the devastating Log4j vulnerability that seemed to affect just about every tech company on the planet. Generally, open source software, or OSS, or FOSS, which is Freedom is a little bit different, is considered more secure because the code can be viewed by the public. Yes, absolutely. This means that issues are often spotted and fixed quickly, unlike in private scenarios where we have seen companies do nothing until pressured by the media, like in the Equifax data breach in 2017. That was huge. And this is a big reason to use open source software, but it doesn't, like with Log4j, it doesn't make everything immune to it. It just helps because there's more eyes on it. These open source software projects are run by volunteers and or companies that are backing them, but whatever. Often run by volunteers, I think we should say. And maintaining code and making sure it is secure is very difficult work and requires a lot of time. Absolutely. Most open source software projects rely on private donations, and funding can be very sparse. Again, usually, yes, and they did say most. Some open source software projects are backed by massive companies,
Yes.
like Apple, like Google, like Facebook, etc.
Sometimes huge consortiums of enormous companies.
Yes, yeah. Google's Kent Walker said, "For too long, the software community has taken comfort in the assumption that open source software is generally secure due to its transparency and the assumption that many eyes were watching to detect and resolve problems. But in fact, while some projects do have many eyes on them, others have few or none at all." This is where, like, I read that part too, and I'm like, yeah. And if I'm like 14 and I release some open source stuff, I mean, some developers at 14 are absolute wizards, but if I'm like, haha, this open source software thing can tell me when my mom drives in the parking lot, I don't think the government should have to make sure that's secure. I have no idea. Google is asking that the US government step in and assist in funding the open source projects that have become critical to so many companies. They want more money from the government. Got it. Android is developed on open source software to ensure there's proper oversight and the code is updated. My care about this just went from like 4 out of 100 to 0. At the moment, it is unclear what kind of action will be taken by the US government or big tech companies, but this is a good first step in making our tech more secure. I don't think just throwing more money at Apple, Google, and Facebook is a good first step. What kind of open source software do you use in everyday life? Have you donated? I have donated to some open source projects. I use such a massive list that
I should donate to more, honestly.
Yeah.
I really should. I don't think I've ever donated to OBS, for example. I definitely should. I mean, that's
a pretty good point.
The amount of money being made in the streaming space, right? Like, did you see that Streamlabs raised like $100 million? I'm looking at this going, what?
Yeah.
Well, how does that number make any sense? I don't get it. But I mean, apparently there's enough money floating around in that space. Like, to be clear, yes, I stream, but like, come on, we do one live podcast episode a week. Like, this is not a streaming operation. So I was blown away to see a number like that for a streaming services provider. I just didn't understand it. So I guess it probably makes sense that OBS should like maybe make some money. So maybe I should just do that.
Yeah. And you've actually mentioned that off stream before too, and I think that would be a good idea. I've donated to a few in real life.
Oh, that's why OBS was on the tip of my tongue. I actually did. I donated to them recently.
Yeah, because we talked about it. Yeah,
because of the what was it? That stupid OBS
Streamlabs thing, was it?
Oh yeah, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You were like 99% of the way there. You got it.
Wait, maybe it's not Streamlabs that raised $100 million. Who was it then? I was emailing some Stream. Hold on.
While you look that up, there's another question here
Yeah.
that says, what kind of open source software is used by Floatplane? Lots of stuff. We also
Stream
contribute-
Elements. Stream Elements raised 100 million. Sorry, correction. Stream Elements raised 100 million. Streamlabs are the jackbutts that prompted me to donate to OBS because they ripped off their software and branding because they were buttheads. There you go. Thanks, guys.
Ping me. But
What's
yeah.
some other open source stuff that you use all the time that you feel like you should probably donate to?
Man,
I use paint.net every week to make the WAN show thumbnail.
yeah, OBS is open right now.
You know who I
Paint.net's
did
great.
donate to, though? Christopher Vandermoten or whatever, who makes the drop shadow plugin that I use for paint.net. I was like, I can't believe paint.net doesn't have drop shadows by default. Thank you for making this plugin. I think I donated like $50 or something like that. I was like, this saves my life because I don't want to learn how to use Photoshop just to put a stupid like drop shadow on something. And this is like 8 years ago or whatever, whenever we started actually doing thumbnails for the WAN show.
One of the problems with talking about open source and talking about donating for open source is because is that there's such a wide range. Like for Floatplane, like AJ mentioned and Jaden mentioned, like we use Node.js and like a billion, or AJ joked only a billion. I think we're at 2 billion now. We use a lot of plugins for Node.js as well, and we use a lot of other open source stuff, and we contribute to a decent amount of open source stuff too. Personally, if I try to exclude work, man, I mean, we just got off the Linux challenge. There's a lot of stuff included in that.
For sure.
I was still using Ubuntu and Mint for a while after the Linux challenge was technically over, and I would like to go back someday. There's been a lot of stuff I've used in like little automation things on my own personal computer. There's been a lot of different like weird stuff for games. Like, I don't know if you remember, but one night the Floatplane team played Among Us, and we used this weird little open source video or voice project thing so that there was proximity voice in the game.
That's cool.
Were you there? I thought you were there. Maybe you weren't there. But yeah, we used this plugin thing so that you could talk to each other in game. You just couldn't use Discord, and you could only talk to each other if you were like right next to each other. So it made it like kind of realistic, which was interesting.
That's cool.
There's lots of little things like that are pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Yeah. There's even stuff like that people should consider contributing to that isn't necessarily open source. But it's a private project that people are not charging for. It's free software,
Right.
or it's a free service or a free website or whatever. And if you use it actively, you should genuinely consider contributing towards it. One big one that's probably on a lot of people's minds right now is the bringing back the YouTube dislike button.
Oh yeah, that's a big one right now.
A lot of work has gone into that, and I bet you a lot of you are using that, and I bet you a lot of you are benefiting from that. So, yeah.
There's another really cool open source YouTube related project. We've got a video coming about it soon. Theo Joe, of all people, created I don't know if I'd call it a script or a program. It's something. And what it does is it interacts with the YouTube API to check all of the comments on your channel or on your most recent videos and put them through like a spam scrub and then remove them from the channel. And it can do it in like a minute.
The fact that took a community member to make that is so
YouTube.
Deeply disappointing. Like how
That's
rough
so
is that,
Google.
Like, come on. Oh my goodness. Someone made a comment the other day that was like, yeah, we definitely needed the dislike buttons to go away for creator mental health when this is what my comment section looks like. And it was literally bots replying to each other.
Yeah, that's
that
my
were like
favorite.
spamming different things. Like,
and then eventually they talk about like the guru that helped them through a tough time in their life or something. And it's like, okay, this is who we're advertising. Life coach or, crypto guru or something like that. I was like,
yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'm dying here.